If you are watching right now and you think that this is the intro of a horror movie, no worries. It's more kind of a mixture between a comedy, a drama, and a story with a happy end. And talking about happy ends, this is my wine of tonight. Chalone Vineyard Estate Grown Chardonnay 2021. And the story of this wine is really impressive because it's one of the wines that took part in the Judgement of Paris in 1976. And actually it won third place, right behind Chateau Montelena, the American one that won first place, and a Meursault from Charme that went on second place. And I would say it's quite a tasty, delicious wine in proper style, in a paper cup, because there are no wine glasses available. I guess America is not used to drink wine in wine glasses. I have no clue. Nevertheless, it's fine. It works. Let's put it like this. Very aromatic, white flowers, tropical fruits, ripe lemons, super interesting, super present lemons, peaches, nectarines. On the palate, it's very, very fresh. Actually, the acidity is quite high, especially for a Chardonnay that has been in oak and has gone through malolactic fermentation. It's slightly creamy. It's not super oaky as some would expect from American Chardonnay. And the finish is very, very long and also carried by the acidity and again with these ripe lemons. It's a very well made Chardonnay. It's super price value. Actually, it sits around $50 in the US, which is, especially for the US, a very good price value. This was unpaid advertisement. It was just a chance. I saw the bottle on the shelf and I just bought it, and it's the second time I ever get the chance to taste Chalone Vineyard. The first one was a Pinot Noir from 1993, a couple of weeks ago, and I would definitely recommend this Chardonnay. And I would even prefer it to, I would say, Viage or maybe a smaller cru from Burgundy. Cheers to episode 184. In that episode, we have some comedy, we have some drama, and we have stories with a happy ending. So right now, have fun with the episode. Welcome to the Pinot Pixel podcast episode number 184, the second episode recorded in the United States. I am quite close to the Yosemite National Park, and the weekly update is recorded with at least two news from the US. But I would start with a topic you might remember. It was just, I guess, 2 weeks ago, and it's a story with a happy ending. The workers at Jacob's Creek Winery reached a deal with Pernod Ricard. And if you don't remember or you weren't listening to the episode, no worries. Just to wrap it up, Pernod Ricard sold some of their wine brands to Accolade Wines in Australia, and one of them was Jacob's Creek, and their workers went on strike because they didn't know what they could expect from their future. It finally came to a good end because Pernod Ricard agreed on a 50% wage increase backdated to the 1st of July. They will get additional day offs, holidays, and also for medically certified days. At least this is a small win for the employees and also for the association that is behind the United Workers Union. Nevertheless, they still have some fears for the future because they still don't know what will happen in 2025 when the deal will probably go through and Pernod Ricard will finally sell Jacob's Creek to Accolade Wines. At least this was a small win for all of them. The good thing about this is it was a very peaceful strike, so they just went on strike for 24 hours trying to show that they really care about their future and that this is necessary, not only for them but also for the company and maybe for the other companies as well. A story without an happy ending is, or actually, it's the current situation of Hawesko. Hawesko loses in the first half of the year. They published their financial data for the last 6 months, and unfortunately, it didn't look very good. They were sitting around 294 million of sales, 5% below the previous year's period with 310 million, and they were sitting at 9.9 million earnings before taxes and interest compared to 13.4 4 million. So another decrease again for Hawesko. According to the company, the reason increase in cost was partially offset by stronger gross margins. In addition to the weaker sales, temporarily increased unit costs in logistics due to the changes at the Tornish site had a negative impact. So there is many reasons for this result, for these results, and what they are doing, and not only since the publishment of this one, what they are currently doing is they are focusing on each brand and trying to reorganize companies. Let's put it like this. One of the biggest ones that are currently under the focus of restructuring is Wein & Co, Austrian company, and some others belong to this as well, and they try to stabilize and looking forward to a better second half of the year 2024. Last time we talked about Hawesko, Jacques Wine Depot unit was the only one that made profit, and this time the numbers of Jacques Wine Depot weren't mentioned, so unfortunately I cannot talk about it. The next topic is more kind of a banger of the week because it's the fourth winery we are talking about in the UK that was put up for sale. This time it's Ancre Hill. Ancre Hill became quite famous in the last couple of years because it's a Welsh winery making really good, high quality wines, and they have been certified by Biodynamically in 2014, so they have been working for 2 years biodynamically, which is a really interesting thing. A funny fact that was mentioned by the owner: it doesn't always rain in Wales. Actually, the climate compares favorably with the southwest of England. So there are also many dry days, and it's not easy, but it's doable to be biodynamic. And this is quite interesting. Right now, it's put up for sale for £3.4 million. If you're interested in a winery producing around 30,000 bottles a year, I guess it's, 4 hectares? 9 hectares, okay. It's 9 hectares of Pinot Noir, Chardonnay and Albarino. And Albarino is seen to be the grape of the future, especially for England. We've talked about that in a recent episode. So right now, if you're interested, Ancre Hill is probably one of the cheaper ones to buy in the UK if you're interested in a winery. We go from the UK to the United States, and currently it's not a drama going on, but it's more kind of a fight. I would put this in the frame of an action movie. This article is from the Wall Street Journal, and it talks about, it's called "How Much Cheese Should You Eat and You Won't Like the Answer?" And the thing behind is that the Institute for Dietary Recommendations in the US is thinking about changing the recommendation how much dairy is good for you per day or per week. And they also do this, they consider to do this with the alcohol. We have talked about that because currently it's a specific amount of dairy products per day that should be part of your diet, and a maximum of 1 drink per day for women and 2 for men. And they are considering changing that, of reshaping the whole structure, the whole idea behind. And of course, this is not only a thing for the people who are pro that, it also puts some people who are against this on the screen. And generally, this causes a huge controversy with the people in the US, because there's some people that are really pro. So let's say, eat less cheese, eat less milk, because we all know that this is related to cardiovascular problems and also diseases and heart attacks. And it's the same with alcohol. And of course, many Americans don't really like the idea because they want to have their alcohol, they want to have their dairy product, and it's a big discussion, and it will go on at least until 2025, when the decision will be made by the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Health and Human Services. I don't think that they will totally ban alcohol or dairy products, but probably they will go away such as Canada did. So say it's maybe 1 per week for women and 2 per week for men, and maybe, I don't know, only 10% of dairy products in your total diet per day when it comes to volume. And actually it's quite interesting, especially for wine people, because I mean, if you like wine, you usually like good cheese, and wine and cheese is a really good pairing. And of course, there's many people from the wine industry that will also fight for their cheese in the dietary guidelines. And if they will ban alcohol, it will definitely write the history books brand new. Some people are even talking about a second prohibition. Talking about history, this is one of the topics I really like to talk about. And we recently talked about some old wineries that were found in the southern part of France. And we talked about an ancient winery in, was it in Georgia or in Lebanon? Can't remember it exactly. Again, archaeologists found a winery. This winery is 1800. It's said to be 1800. It's said to be built between the 4th and the 7th century AD. So let's say 1500 years old. And it's a quite impressive one. They're currently working on restoring it. And it's found in San Gimignano, so the area where Vernaccia is grown in Italy. And the excavation is currently taking place. The location is in Aiano. It's a small town in the area. And the area of the building is about 10,000 square meters. That's pretty crazy. And half of it has been brought to light at the moment. What they also found is tanks inside a large room of approximately 30 meters by 9 meters, divided by 6 axial pillars with 2 naves. And this room had a cuvette, it's a basin for collecting the scum, on the bottom, and had ladders to descend to the bottom of this basin, actually. And they were used for the fermentation of the must. And then they carried out chemical analysis, and they showed that those basins were filled with pine resin and pitch, substances used in the ancient production of wine. So again, they found a very old winery, 1500 years old. And I mean, at least we already know that Italy has been making wine for thousands of years, but it's also nice to see, and especially also for people working in history and in archaeology, to try to restore how wine was made maybe 1500 or 2000 years ago. And I guess some of the things have changed significantly, but many things in winemaking are still the same they have been 2000 years ago. Talking about a change, and this is also a topic that made me smile, and there's an interesting transition from Italy to the next one, Russia. The article is called "Russia Drinks More and Differently." And just to give you a short overview, what happened over the last 2 to 3 years, due to the fact that Russia started the war with the Ukraine, many Western countries said they won't import to Russia anymore. And this also accounts for wine. And Russia, on their side, did something similar. They said that they will put taxes on products imported from so-called unfriendly countries, making a €1 wine €4.50 after tax. And usually the segment of €1 per bottle is the main segment for people in Russia when it comes to alcohol. So what Russia saw is a huge switch from wine and beer to other drinks. And what they also did is they tried to get their favorite products from other countries. And what is one of the main products in Russia when it comes to wine and sparkling wine? It's Prosecco. And sorry, I'm already smiling. Russian importers are currently considering importing wine, especially sparkling wine, from other countries such as Brazil, India, China, Serbia, Tunisia, and Algeria. And the customs agency already has a declaration of a shipment of 30,200 bottles of Prosecco from Brazil to Russia. I don't know how this works, because Prosecco is a protected brand, a protected origin. Since 2009, they have introduced the DOC and the DOCG in 2009 to protect the heritage of Prosecco. They renamed the grape from Prosecco to Glera, and the region was said to be Prosecco. And they're currently fighting many legal disputes, especially, for example, we talked about Australia and the Australian Prosecco over there. And I guess Russia just doesn't care. So they asked for, can you give me some Prosecco, Brazil? And they said, yes, of course. Here's your Prosecco. Have fun with it. And Russia will do this in the future as well. They also claimed sparkling wine made in Russia to be named champagne. There's also a legal dispute going on, and I guess they just don't care and they try to figure out where they can get their wine from, because many countries are saying no to importing to Russia. And there was a recent article, I'll probably be on the next news, because I just read this morning that Russia is considering to build a huge, let's call it a wine empire on the ground of the Ukrainian country, on the ground of Ukraine, close to the Black Sea. Maybe we'll talk about that in the next episode. Again, Prosecco, but this time in a different way. Microsoft is working together with the Prosecco DOC Consortium to fight against counterfeited bottles. And what are they using? AI, artificial intelligence. Of course they're using it. How does it work? There's an app provided by the Prosecco DOC and Microsoft Italy where you can just scan your bottle. So you take a photo of the label, and then the software, the app, just checks the label and tries to find a reference in the database of the Prosecco DOC if this bottle is really a true bottle or if it might be counterfeit. What basically is done is image recognition, and then the application shows you if your bottle is a real one or if it's counterfeit, and then it also provides you information about origin, characteristics, and food combinations, so wine and food pairings. The interesting thing is that the intro is written like you could identify, or you might get the feeling at least, that your bottle is counterfeit just by the smell and the taste. And for me, this accounts for, I would say, 1 to 5% of all drinkers. And this sounds like, I don't know, I'm sitting on a terrace with some friends, I have no clue of wine, but I love drinking Prosecco. And then I drink it and I was like, no, this is not a real bottle. I have to look it up. And then they use the application and scan it. Just to give you the quote of the article. You bought a bottle of Prosecco DOC, but you are not convinced of its authenticity. You received it suspiciously, the label has something that doesn't convince you, and above all the flavor on the palate, it is just not great. You could pick up your smartphone, take a photo, and analyze the image with artificial intelligence, which may or may not confirm your doubts. Has the Made in Italy brand been falsified? This is the story behind it. Quite interesting, actually. I don't know if they have to claim it, that they use AI, because basically it's image recognition. But to be fair, at the moment, everything is working way better in marketing and storytelling when you use AI. And this is not the last one this week, the last story with AI. There is a small shop in Germany that uses automated cashier systems, which is quite normal in today's supermarkets, but not only for just dealing with your products and giving you the invoice for that, but also for the age recognition. So what they basically do is they take a picture of you when you want to buy a bottle of alcohol, and the image is analyzed whether you are at least, or whether you seem to be at least 25 years or older. And if the test fails, then they will need a person of the staff to check your passport. And it's quite interesting actually, because the shop is open 24 hours, and during the normal office times, between 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. they have 6 people of staff in place that are basically responsible for the shelf, filling up the products and stuff, but there won't be cashiers and they won't check the age and stuff. Let's say they're only the backup for that. And it's a quite interesting concept. Unfortunately, at the moment, you won't be able to buy your alcohol, your wine, whatever, just by image recognition after hours. You will need your passport, because the AI is not 100% working, I would say, or maybe the percentage is not good enough to be secured by law. Let's put it like this. I'm in Germany, and we Germans, we like to have everything 100% correct. So this is why this only works with passport after hours. But basically, it's a really good thing. I guess we will see this way more in the future, not only the age tagging, but generally the automation of processes in supermarkets and restaurants and in bars, because there is a staff shortage. Less and less people are available for all those jobs, and it's also quite tough to pay those people. So if you want to keep your staff small but qualified, this might be a thing for the future. And the interesting thing is that the owner of the shop told Meininger in the interview that he only had to pay 150 euro in addition once to get this AI image recognition thing installed. That is actually quite cheap to be an opportunity to save some time for your staff or maybe replace the passport check in the future. Talking about interesting stories in supermarkets and so, 7-Eleven, the chain, came up with a banger this week. 7-Eleven Canada will soon allow to purchase and consume alcohol on the premises. So you will be able to enter 7-Eleven, get your beer and drink it immediately. And I mean, sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? That you just go in the supermarket, you buy your beer and just drink it immediately, and maybe this will lead to more alcohol consumption in place at least. You have to have a license to do so as a shop owner, and these licenses permit alcohol drinks to be served to customers in special new dining sections, they call it, in the stores from midday until 11 p.m. So just those 11 hours. And the owner or the vice president of 7-Eleven Canada says, we look at ourselves as a restaurant first that sells convenience store items. Traditional convenience store items like cigarettes and other products have continuously declined year after year, and so as an industry we need to go and reshape ourselves. Our plan is to be competitive with the marketplace, the beer store, the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, who has also praised for modernizing alcohol retailing in Ontario. So quite an interesting move to be a supermarket that considers itself more like in-place bar, restaurant, food store combination. I mean, we recently talked about the awareness that Canada really has on the topic of alcohol. They changed the recommendations from 1 drink per day to 1 drink per week, and they are also considering to ban advertising for alcohol. And this seems to be on the opposite side of it, but maybe this could also turn out to be a good idea to have more controlled drinking, and also to give 7-Eleven the opportunity to enhance their business. And maybe in the future it will be a combination of a shop and a bar or so. I mean, why not? There's many wine shops currently selling wine and in parallel serving wine to customers. I mean, it's a bit different when you sell everything and alcohol, but I mean, why not? Interesting move, definitely. And right now, at the end of this episode, I will tell the story or the rest of the story with Chalone Vineyards, because how do I know this brand? It's a brand, it's a winery in California, in Central California. Well, actually, what does the label say where they belong to? There is no AVA on the bottle. That is funny. Estate grown in Soledad, California. It's Central California, actually. So what is the idea behind it? It took part in the Judgement of Paris in 1976, and I would give a big shout out to the book behind. This is the book written by George Tabor, who took part in the tasting as the journalist that took all the notes and that was basically responsible for the documentation of the tasting in 1976. He was invited by Stephen Spurrier, and it's just an amazing book. You can read everything in the book, which wines were considered, and the Chalone Vineyard Chardonnay you can find on page 166 if you're interested in it. I bought this book in used condition, and if you want to do that, please do so. I'm a big fan of buying used, especially books, because you don't have to buy them new from the shelf, but if you want to, please do so. I will put my affiliate link of Amazon in the show notes if you're interested in the book. I can highly recommend it. It's a super interesting story, and it's not only just a wine story. It's a story that changed the wine world forever. And if you're not familiar with it, basically, in 2 sentences, Stephen Spurrier, an Englishman living in France, had the idea to go to California, pick some wines, fly back to France, put it in a blind tasting with the great wines of France to that time. So the Groupe de Cruz from Burgundy, from Rhone, and from Bordeaux. And in the blind tasting with the, to that time, let's say, big people in the industry, the names, he chose the names for the tasting, for the blind tasting. And what happened? The Americans won. In white, Chateau Montelena first place, and third place Chalone Vineyards. And also in the red section, they won. And this changed the wine world forever, because it not only showed that California or the US is able to make great wines, it also showed that comparing the quality, it's almost impossible to see a difference in quality between France and the US. And to that time also, the French wines were already priced way higher than the ones from California. And of course, because it changed the wine world forever, it also changed the prices. And today you will have to pay $100 for a bottle of Chateau Montelena Chardonnay. And if you want to get your hands on the bottle of the 1973 that took part in the tasting, the Judgement of Paris, you have to pay approximately about $15,000 to $20,000. Every now and then there's a bottle on the market, but I mean, you have to be a little bit crazy to buy a bottle like this. But maybe you are. Have fun with it. Let me know. Put my social media handling Pinot Pixel in your story if you're taking a photograph of it. And right now, have a nice weekend. See you on Wednesday. Ciao, ciao.